I recently turned 65 years old, and I'll be honest that skincare wasn't as high a priority for me 10 years ago or so. But I don't want to have skin that looks like an old weathered couch. And so OneSkin is part of my daily morning routine. OneSkin is a skincare brand focused on skin longevity. The company is founded by an all-women team of scientists with PhDs in areas including stem cell biology, skin regeneration, and tissue engineering. It's designed to target senescent cells, which are associated with visible signs of skin aging, such as wrinkles, fine lines, and the loss of elasticity, which I know nothing about, but I do know that it makes my skin feel good. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, help you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin with 15% off using code TRAVELER at oneskin.co/traveler. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code TRAVELER. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. And thanks to OneSkin for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Hey, Sal.
Hank, what's going on? We haven't worked a case in years.
I just bought my car at Carvana, and it was so easy. Too easy.
Think something's up?
You tell me. They got thousands of options. Found a great car at a great price. And it got delivered the next day.
It sounds like Carvana just makes it easy to buy your car, Hank.
Yeah, you're right. Case closed.
Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Amateur Traveler, episode 983. Today, Amateur Traveler talks about Einstein and bears and clocks, funiculars, mountains, and melted cheese as we go to Bern, Switzerland. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about Bern. I would like to welcome to the show Jack Baumann, a.k.a. Traveling Jack from Guidester.com. Guidester is an American travel company focusing on Europe, and Jack is also the publisher, producer of Europe Travel 101 podcast. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. Really excited to be on this. This is an honor.
Excellent. And Jack has come to talk to us about Bern, Switzerland. And Jack, what is your connection with Bern?
My connection is twofold. It's a city that I visited early on in my travels, my early 20s, that I absolutely fell in love with. And then since then, one of my best friends lives in Bern. He's a German born in the Schwarzwald in Black Forest in southern Germany. He's now basically married, partnered with a Swiss woman. They have a little Swiss baby, Alana. So I see them all the time, 2-3 times a year. I go there and visit them. And I had already fallen in love with Bern before he moved there. He's been there now, I think, 7 years, works for the Swiss Post. And he lives, we'll get into the areas of Bern, but he lives in one of the most beautiful places in Bern, in one of the most beautiful cities in Switzerland, which the quality of life, just his life is just amazing. So those are my two connections really to Bern, is that personal connection and then the objectivity of the beauty of the city.
Excellent. And why should someone go to Bern?
Why should someone go to Bern? There are many reasons. I would say Bern epitomizes the mixture of natural beauty, culture, and history that Switzerland is known for. So it's on the river Aare. It's surrounded by the Bernese Oberland. So there's actually a little mountain. We'd call it a mountain for the Swiss. It's more of a big hill, the Gürten, that's inside Bern, the city. So you can get from the city center to a mountain in about 15 minutes. So they have this natural beauty. On a clear day, you can see the Alps. You can see the mountains. You can, within 1 hour, get into the mountains. So you have that natural beauty. You can even swim in the Aare, come out. We'll talk more about that. A really cool little area that you can swim in publicly in the river. And then the history. Switzerland didn't participate in the first two world wars. And as a result, the historical centers of most Swiss cities are perfectly preserved. Bern absolutely epitomizes that. It used to be a walled city. There were 3 consecutive walls. And so clock towers, cobblestone streets, the churches, cathedrals, the architecture. So that stunning, beautiful blend of culture, history, and that sort of natural beauty.
Excellent. What itinerary are you going to recommend for us?
Should we do a 7-day? Let's do a 7-day itinerary.
Please, sir.
The beauty of Bern, I would say too, is it's one of those places where you could do in 2-3 days. You're not going to see everything, of course, like with any destination in Europe. There's so much to see and do, but you can knock out the highlights in the city in a couple days. But the beauty of Bern is it's an amazing base to then do the surrounding area. So just going through an itinerary, right? You'll fly into Zurich or Basel or Geneva, but Zurich would be the closest major airport. You could do a night or two there, but then you're taking a train, hour, 90 minutes from Zurich to Bern. You come right into the central station, stay in a hotel in the historic center, somewhere within a few blocks of the Bern Münster or the Sitzglocke. So just somewhere in the historic center.
And the Bern Münster would be a church.
It's the cathedral. Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun little anecdote here is you'll see this all over Europe, particularly German-speaking countries and then also English-speaking countries. You might see Minster, like York Minster.
Yeah.
And then you might see Münster, which is the German version of Minster. How's that different than a church? The easy answer is it's a parish church. It used to be a parish church and then maybe upgraded to a cathedral when it became the seat of a bishop. That is the central place of learning.
I did not know that.
So an example of this is Westminster. A lot of people don't realize Westminster is actually 2 words in London. And it dawned on me one day, because you hear it all the time. Westminster just means the Westminster, because Westminster used to be a village separate from the city of London for most of London's history. And that just meant this was the area, the church, because it used to be a monastery that was known for learning. So minsters were usually monasteries that were advanced in the letters. The monks had some sort of pedigree of learning and education. So that's the main cathedral in Bern is the Bern Münster. You can climb the tower. You can get 360-degree views of the city. I'm a tower guy. So anywhere I can climb to a high point and get views, I'm doing it. So you see the cathedral. So the first 2 days, I would say, you just spend seeing Bern itself. The historic center to go through a few sites, the cathedral, which we talked about, which is an amazing medieval cathedral, stained glass, and then that tower you can climb. It has nearby the Sitzglocke. We've all heard of the astronomical clock in Prague, but equally as important, I would say, is the Sitzglocke in Bern. It's one of the oldest continuously working clocks in Europe, going back to the medieval times. And it's perfectly preserved. So the astronomical clock in Prague, just to make a comparison, was damaged in the Second World War. They had to reconstruct it. It's still authentic, but it had damage. None of that happened in Bern. So you can see it from the outside, and it does every hour on the hour. It does a little dance. And then you can actually do a guided tour inside the clock, which is unique. You can get inside. It's a building. So it's a tower. The Sitzglocke is one of the towers of the 3 consecutive walled towers that encircled the medieval center of Bern. This is one of the towers that's left. So they knocked down the walls, reconverted them into buildings.
And it's over one of the old gates, it looks like.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. I think it's the second gate of the old medieval city, and it takes you right into it. So it's a cool thing to see. And then you get to experience the moving parts, which to us isn't that big of a deal. It's just novel. But in the medieval times, that would have been, whoa, to see mechanical moving parts. That would have been huge.
When you say the second gate,
yes.
So I'm looking at a picture of Bern, and it looks like Bern was a city. They built a wall around it. Then it got bigger. They extended it, built a wall around that. And then it got bigger, and they extended it and built a wall around that because it's all on a peninsula in a river here.
Yes.
And so it's the second one as you go in to the city.
You cannot make out the walls anymore. The walls have been basically absorbed with the buildings. But the way to, when you see a medieval map and then you go there, the wide streets are where the moat was outside the walls.
Sure.
So that's where you can see the remnants of the old walls.
Which is true in a lot of European cities.
It is. I'd say once you see it in Bern, because of the peninsula and the nature of it, it becomes very clear. It's much harder to decipher in other European cities just because of the nature of how it's progressed and the Second World War changed things. But in Bern, it's this very stark of picture of the progression. And then you can go, one of the other sites I'll mention here, I think it's one of my favorite sites. It's the Bern Historical / Einstein Museum. It's in an old castle just across the bridge from the historic center. You cross a bridge, and it's called the Museum Quarter. There's the Alpine Museum, several other museums in this roundabout. And they have this historical museum. In there, they have a model of the progression of Bern over the century, starting in the 13th century. So 1291, I think it is the sort of agreed upon start date of the state of Switzerland, which began with 3 cantons. So that's how Switzerland began, was a conglomeration, a confederacy of cantons. And they show from 1290s until modern times how Bern progressed. So it's a really neat sight to see. The building itself is fantastic. The artwork in there going from ancient all the way up until modern. You've got the medieval artwork and the coats of armor and all that kind of stuff. I love it. I've been there, probably 10 times. Every time I go to Bern, I try to make a stop into this museum. And then a second part of this, a lot of people might not realize that Einstein lived in Bern for a period of time after he fled Nazi Germany as a Jew. And he came to Bern before he went to the US. And this is where he developed his theories of relativity, for example. So you can both see the museum. There's 2 spots. The museum that's part of the History Museum is one of the best museums I've seen to an individual. It's both his life and his works, and it's interactive. It's a very well done museum. But then you can also visit Einstein's house. And that's where people might get confused. There's 2 Einstein sites. His house, which is quite small. It's right on the main drag. There's one main street going through the historic center of Bern.
Okay.
And his house is right there. It's just a small little plaque, but you can pay a few Swiss francs to get in, and or you can go to that historical museum, which is a much bigger museum dedicated to his life.
Okay. And the other thing we should say before we go too far along is we're talking about the old city of Bern. That is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
It is.
Which is not too surprising. A lot of those old medieval cores have been named UNESCO sites, and this is one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And the second you get there, you realize it. The modernity of it, one of the things I love about Europe, but particularly Central and Northern Europe, the Germanic-speaking parts too, that maybe the wealthier parts that have had that opportunity to redo their old medieval cities beautifully. So it's completely modernized. Obviously, electricity, plumbing, running water, but
Sure.
everything is, in some ways, I'd say the infrastructure is more advanced than what's in the States, just how everything works. They even have in front of the Bundeshaus, their parliament, they have a big square. And for festivals, they have these bollards come up from underneath the ground that have electronic inputs into them so you can charge your phone, as an example.
Oh, funny.
Unbelievable. They do these projections at night on the Bundeshaus. So it's a very advanced, but to see the way they've modernized it without messing up any of the medieval facade is awesome. And one of the things that is evident that they haven't redone, which is they've just used it, is their underground cellars. So Bern has the longest covered arcades in Europe. So the streets that are covered by archways that have shops and restaurants in them, there's 2.5 miles of them going through the city center. And then next to those, alongside those, are these, what to me, they look like tornado shelters. I'm from the Midwest. So I grew up in St. Louis, grew up in Missouri, and I see these, they're still wooden doors going down in the ground. And those used to be to store salt and ice. So very practical, store them under the ground, keep it cool, keep the meat and stuff preserved. But over time, instead of just filling those in or doing something else, they have kept them perfectly preserved, even the wooden doors, and they've turned them into shops and restaurants. So you can actually have a drink, and sometimes they're quite big. You go down, it's not just a little hole in the ground. It'll open up into a gigantic space underground. So that's a unique part of Switzerland that I really love.
Now, the other thing that you implied but did not mention yet, you mentioned being in front of the government house, basically. This is also a capital of Switzerland.
It's actually not. So fun fact, this is one of the only, I think there's 2 countries in the world. I'm not sure about the second. But
it's the de facto capital.
It's a federal city, is what they call it.
It's a federal city. Yeah.
So the federal buildings, Switzerland is actually the closest, I would say, to the United States in the terms of governance. They're devolved, centralized government where the cantons operate more like states. And the federal government, and this is how the United States started, it's maybe changed.
Yeah, I would say it's
Now
closer to the
changed, but
United
the federal
States.
government's quite big.
Under the Articles of Confederation, maybe.
Yeah, even after that, the federal government really didn't get huge until the 20th century in the States. Anyway, in Switzerland, it has kept that. So the cantons have almost total control over policy, education, basically commerce, the coining of money, and basic defense. The very high-level basic stuff is done at the federal level, which is done in the Bundeshaus, which is a beautiful building in Bern. But that's a federal building. They do not have a capital, partially, probably mainly, because they don't want to choose favorites. And that's a beautiful thing, kind of like what we did with Washington, D.C., created our own de facto capital. So that's a neat part. Is so you've got the federal building there, which you can tour. It's a beautiful 19th century, modern, Baroque, medieval architecture. And that's right in the city center. And they always have things going on in front of the Bundeshaus.
And then I had interrupted you. You were moving on here.
Yeah. So you've got the Bundeshaus. We talked about the museums. A couple other major sites that you absolutely cannot miss when you're in Bern. The actual center of Bern is the Bear Park. You actually have live bears. The symbol of Bern is the bear.
Yeah.
And there used to be bears. Those days are gone. There used to be live bears roaming around the countryside. But to keep that tradition alive, they have this hillside that you can go visit. You can't get in the bear's pit. It's called the bear pit. But
it's just as well.
Just as well. I don't know. They seem very friendly, actually. But there's no walls. It's not like a zoo. So you can get a very good view of these live bears, several of them. And that's right there in the city center. So that's a really cool thing to do, is visit the Bärenpark. And then the Rosengarten, it's the rose garden. You go up a little hill. So depending on when you go, if you go in spring and summer, the roses are just going to be blazing. Even if you go in the off season or the cold season, it's still a cool view. So you have this beautiful rose garden on a platform. There's a bar, coffee shop there. And then you have this view of Bern overlooking the entire city and the mountains in the back, and then the Goten. So it's an amazing view. It's relaxing. And then some of these roses are as big as your head. Because of the climate in the spring and summer, it doesn't get too hot, doesn't blaze off the roses. They just keep growing until the winter or fall.
I'm going to guess if you listen to Amateur Traveler, then you like travel planning. You at least like thinking about trips ahead of time. If you also like comparing hotels, scoring the impossible reservation, and piecing together an unforgettable itinerary, then you already think like a travel advisor. So why not be one? Imagine if your love of planning vacations could become a source of income. With Fora, you get the training, the tools, and the insider access to turn your passion into real earnings as a travel advisor, so you can build a thriving part-time business on your terms. Fora is a modern travel agency built for people who love to plan travel and help others travel well. Their platform, training, and community give you everything you need to turn a passion for travel and travel planning into a flexible, meaningful stream of income. Become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/traveler. That's FORA travel.com/traveler, and make sure you tell them we sent you. foratravel.com/traveler. And thanks to Fora for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Every group has someone who insists on doing things the hard way. That friend still paying for a subscription they forgot they had, the one refusing to update their phone because it still works, and the one overpaying for wireless. You don't have to pay too much for wireless if you switch to Mint Mobile. My producer, Callista, says, I've been using Mint for about a year and a half now, and it's been a great experience. One thing that stood out was how hassle-free it was to switch over to Mint from my old service. It was so easy. The prices are also significantly lower than what I was paying before, and the connection experience I've had since switching has been fantastic. I try and convince all my friends that they have to switch to Mint because it feels absurd to be paying so much more for the same quality. Ready to stop paying more than you have to? New customers can make the switch today, and for a limited time, get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 per month. Switch now at mintmobile.com/traveler. That's mintmobile.com/traveler. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable devices required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. Additional terms apply. See mintmobile.com. And thanks to Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler. That does beg the question of when do you recommend that we go to Bern?
A lot of people think of Switzerland generally as a winter destination. I would argue
Interesting.
that's been my experience.
I would say I do not, but okay.
Yeah. When I book trips, a lot of things people
Yeah.
are like, oh, I want to go to Switzerland to ski and eat fondue and see the
Sure,
mountain
sure.
villages and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But I think Switzerland, it is beautiful in the winter, but going in the spring and summer generally, I think June to September, between those months is a good one. The weather is going to be good. And the crowds in Bern, while Bern is a federal city, it's not a Zurich, a Lucerne, a Geneva. It's not going to have the level of crowds that the other few major destinations that Americans and other people are going to. So it's less touristy in that regard. So even if you go in
Okay.
July, August, it's not going to be like going to Rome or Paris in July, August. Much more manageable. So June and September are two good sweet spots, but anytime between late May and June all the way through September is a good time to go because you're still going to get the good weather. It's going to be sunny, not as much rain. And then you can just get this vibrant green, and then you get these flowers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, going to Switzerland with the good weather is ideal.
Excellent. Where to next?
So continuing with the major sites in Bern, the things that you're there the first couple days, 2-3 days, you're going to want to visit the Aare River if you want to swim. So one of the cool things about Bern, Switzerland in general, is you can just jump in the river legally, jump off a bridge into the river, and then you come out of a platform area called the Matzili. There's a spot in the historic center of Bern at the river level. So the city itself is built on a bluff overlooking the river, which is why they chose it strategically. Makes sense. Built the castle walls up, town walls above that. At the bottom level, you have this area called the Matzili, where it's like a grassy area where in the summertime they have pop-up bars, they have Gelateria di Bern, which is actually this amazing gelato in Bern. You wouldn't think about it. It's one of the best gelatos I've ever had. So you can get out of the river, visit, basically just have a drink, have an ice cream, and then right above you is the Bundeshaus. So just jumping into the river, and you can jump into different points. The most common is this bridge upriver. You just walk and just jump in, and people do it. It's the cleanest, clearest water you'll ever. This is one of my favorite things to do. It's fun. It's a very fast-moving river. Yeah, very fast-moving, but it's buoyant. So all you got to do is just lay there, and you'll be pulled through. But if you're not a good swimmer, probably don't recommend it. But you just jump in, and you just feel the current moving you, and you're swimming in and out. You can open up your eyes. You see completely all the way down to the bottom. Because it's a rocky, pebbly riverbed, it is perfectly clear, and it has this turquoise hue. It has to do with the mineral in the rock, but it's just you look at it and you say, I got to get in that water. And it's a very easy thing to do. Jump off the bridge and then get off at Matzili and have a little drink, gelato, and enjoy the sun.
Now, I would think in Switzerland, where they have very tall mountains and glaciers, that any river I jump into might be a tad chilly.
It's really not. So I have this number in my head because I was just there this last summer doing it with my buddy. 17, 18 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Water. So it's really not bad. So you got to go at the right time of year. You're not going to do that in September, October, maybe September, but June, July, August, it's nice. And the sun, despite what you might think, people might think it's going to be on the cooler side. It can get quite warm. Even if it's 70, it'll feel warmer just because it's clear. And so the sun's out all day.
And 17 is 62 Fahrenheit, which is still a tad chilly, but not life-threatening.
No, and it's not ice cold. It's not glacial.
No.
And it could be 18. It could be 18. But I think, when I was just there a few months ago, it was 17.5 or something. So not bad at all. So we talked a lot about the major sites, the churches, museums, historic stuff. Part of the beauty of Bern is just getting lost, going to these underground restaurants and having some of the local food. So one of the foods that I love most about Switzerland in general, but Bern in particular, is raclette. So everybody maybe associates Switzerland with fondue, but they might even eat raclette more than they eat fondue, which is melted cheese. It's actually a French word, raclette. but it's all over Switzerland, and they can do it at home, or you can go to a raclette bar, if you will, and you can
Right.
watch them scrape it right off the thing, and then you eat it with potatoes and pickles.
Okay, we need a little description there for the scrape it right off the thing. So what you're talking about is there's a flame, and they push a big wheel of cheese up against a hot plate, basically, that is warmed by this flame. And so they're literally just giving you melted cheese that's served with little potatoes and little onions and things like that.
That's exactly right. Yes. And part of the experience of raclette is it's communal. A lot of people do this at home. So you can go to a restaurant, but a really neat thing to do is you do it at home. You have a little raclette machine, and raclette cheese is specific. One thing you have to understand is you can't just take any hunk of cheese, melt it, and throw potatoes on it. It won't work. It won't melt in the correct way. So you go to these restaurants, they have the exact cheese made for raclette. They have a hot plate or a flame, and they just little thin slices of melted cheese on roasted potatoes and herb, garlic, and things like that. And depending on the region, they might add something else. Bacon, you can throw a little meat, which is great, a little bacon, some pickles and things like that. But traditionally, melted cheese and potatoes, it is the best. So I think if you're looking at a 6-7 day itinerary, a couple, 2-3 days minimum, just exploring the highlights of Bern, all the things we discussed could easily keep you busy. One thing I didn't mention that is really worth seeing, that might take you a couple hours to do right, or a half day, is going up the Gürten, which is the little mountain in Bern. You can take a cable car up to that from the base, or you can walk right up it. And on top of that is a huge hotel restaurant. So you can hike up there. Just to underscore the beauty of the cities of Switzerland, how they integrate nature into their cities so well, you can get from the Bundeshaus, which is the parliament, to touching a cow in 5-minute bike ride. So there's a farm in the city limits of Bern that you can go to. And so to underscore that point, when you're going up the Gürten, you feel like, wow, I'm in the countryside. You've got cows grazing, you have mountain hills and villages up there. And so they've done such a good job of not letting modernization just sprawl over everything. So the Gürten, if you don't have time or don't want to take the time to go out to the mountain villages, which we'll discuss here in a minute, going up to the Gürten is a great thing to do to get out of the city vibe into the less hustle and bustle, more rural. And then on the top of that is the absolute best view. So the Rosengarten is on the other side. That's a good view of the city, closer up. But Gürten is the really far back view of the entire region, the mountains, and then, of course, the city of Bern. And you can walk it or take the gondola or the cable car up. And so I mentioned my buddy. He lives in a house. He met a couple in this 19th century house that is way above their pay grade, but basically they wanted to give a young family an opportunity. So he lives in this old house on the mountaintop going up to the Gürten. He can walk 5 feet and get to the one station of the gondola at a whim. He can take his daughter up to the mountain and just have a walk up the mountain or get on the gondola. This is such a cool lifestyle that the Bernese have. Is if you want nature, it's right there. If you want history, it's there. Everything that you would want and need is there within walking or public transportation. So the train transit tram in Bern is great.
So in Switzerland in general.
In Switzerland in general, and the cities and Bern in particular, one thing they have that I love is the Puebla bikes. It's common in Europe to have the bike rentals, like Lime is popular too. But before Lime, they had city bikes. So they have city bikes because Bern is hilly. It's Switzerland, it's mountainous. They have e-bikes. So it's pedal assist. So you can really get around everywhere in Bern on these Puebla bikes, park it, get off, and then go about your business. If you don't want to do that, you can take the tram, but it's just a fun experience to do. You can ride on the roads. It's very safe, very well maintained. I love to ride the Puebla bikes when I go to Bern's. Yeah, so that's a bit about Bern, the city itself, and what you, I would say, absolutely must see and do when you're there. And if you're looking for a specific place to have that racletteberg, so I'll try to spell it, L-O with an umlaut, T-S-C-H-B-E-R-G, Lutzberg. So that's a really cool, good local restaurant to try raclette, tons of others, but a specific one as a recommendation. Now, getting outside of Bern, this is another beautiful reality to Bern is it's just an hour or two from so much to see and do. The spots that I would recommend if you want to get outside of the city, go to Thun, Thun. Thun is a classic medieval Swiss city on the lake of Thunersee, on the Lake Thun. And it has a castle, small medieval town with cobblestone streets, with a river that's flowing right into the Lake Thunersee. And then on the lake, you have these amazing medieval castles like Schloss Spiez, and Schloss Oberhofen. I would say classic medieval castles overlooking the lake with these beautiful walls and ramparts and dungeons and old rooms. And then they have little restaurants and cafes there too. So you go to Thun, you visit the medieval center, you have a lunch there, visit Thun Castle, and then you can go to one or two or more of these castles right on the lake. So that could be a full day, just going to Thun and the area around Thun.
Oh, so you're in. I was thinking these castles look really familiar. So this is the one of the two lakes that Interlaken is in between.
Exactly. Yes, Interlaken just between.
I'm thinking I have been to the Spitz Castle and the Oberhofen Castle. These are amazing castles with gardens and things like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's on the lake, and as you said, there's two lakes that the city of Interlaken, which just translates into between two lakes.
Between two lakes, yeah.
So you don't think about it until you start to learn these pieces, and you're like, oh, it makes sense. So now moving on from Thun, Interlaken, since we're there, Interlaken is known as the outdoor capital of Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
This is where any adventure sports, skydive, paragliding, anything you want to do in the adventure extreme kind of sports, outdoorsy stuff, you're going to want to do in Interlaken. Now, you can reach Interlaken in 90 minutes or so from Bern. So using Bern as a base is a great thing to do if you don't want to move hotels too much. And that's what I'm a big believer in, is going deep rather than broad. A lot of times people see Europe, especially Switzerland, as a small place. I can get around easily. Maybe they
if
even
this
Google
is
it.
Tuesday, this must be Belgium. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. You would, maybe you wouldn't, but I'm still surprised at the perception of Americans in Europe. And 10 days and I'm going to visit these 10 cities. And they think it's feasible. But that's part of what I do, is I talk people back from the ledge to give them a dose of reality of, first of all,
you can do it.
You can't. Well,
my family has a 2-night minimum rule.
Good one. That's a good rule. And sometimes 2 nights isn't even enough, depending on your logistics. Because if you're coming from another place, you've spent half a day getting there. Now it's really one full day. So yes, that's important to understand. So if you've got that week itinerary, you could just spend that whole week in Bern, and you're seeing a lot more than just Bern. You've done a couple days in the city. You've spent a day in Thun, Thunersee, then maybe another day in Interlaken. And this area around Interlaken is where these beautiful, famous medieval mountaintop villages are. Gimmelwald is a very big one. Grindelwald. Gimmelwald was made famous by Rick Steves. The Swiss have an expression, I think Europe in general, they have it. It's called the Rick Steves effect. He comes to a place that nobody knows about, publishes in his book, and now everybody's there. Gimmelwald is actually an exact example of this. Nobody was going to Gimmelwald, and then it was published in Rick Steves' book. Now the locals are really struggling with all the influx because it's a tiny village. The only way to reach it is gondola. So you take a gondola from Lauterbrunnen, which is a really neat town in of itself, little touristy, but from Lauterbrunnen, this is a big ski area. So in the winter, you're using these lifts to ski. In the summer, you're using these lifts to do hiking and walking, getting up to the mountain villages. So you take a train to Lauterbrunnen, and then you take a gondola up to all these little villages. So that's a whole day just in that. And then another full day is going up to Jungfrau. Jungfrau is the highest peak in this area, not the highest peak in the Alps. That actually belongs to Mont Blanc in France. But Jungfrau is one of the major peaks. You got the Eiger, the Jungfrau. There's these 3 peaks in this area that are the height of the Oberland, the Bernese Oberland in this part of the Alps. So in the middle of 2 of these peaks is called Jungfrau Joch, which is just the train station in Jungfrau. It's the highest train station in Europe. It's, I think, 10,000 plus, about 11,000 feet. And it takes a couple hours to get there, a couple hours back, and then you spend 2 or 3 hours up there. So that's a full day. But wow, the experience getting up there. You go from train to cog train to gondola. So you take a couple different modes of transportation. Beautiful views getting up there. And then when you're up there, it's not just a train station. It's an entire complex with a crystal and ice palace. It has an alpine museum, has 2 or 3 big restaurants. It has a viewing platform. And then you can leave, go outside and walk. You're literally walking in a mountain pass flanked by
Right.
2 peaks, right? And if you're lucky enough to get a clear view, which even if you start and it's clear, when you get up there, it might be foggy. So you just have to hope for the best, book the ticket and hope for the best. But even if it's foggy up there, you can tube, you can zip line, you can sled. So they have all these activities up in this mountain complex that you can do. You got to be careful though. I actually got a little bit of altitude sickness. I was so excited to be up there my first time. I'm running around and I didn't really take into consideration that I was at 11,000 feet. So
Yeah.
just a fact or just a little tip there for you. If you're going up to Jungfraujoch, take it slow, drink more water than you think you need, and
Right.
be conscientious of the fact that you're up at 11,000 feet and you'll get winded way quicker. So if you're going to go outside, you can literally walk outside, snow everywhere, and you can just start walking up the mountain.
Quince is all about elevated essentials that feel effortless. Designed for layering and mixing, each piece helps build a timeless wardrobe made to last. With versatile silhouettes and thoughtful details, they're the kinds of styles you wear again and again. Quince uses the highest quality materials like 100% European linen and organic cotton. And as I'm thinking about packing for a trip to New York, I'm looking at that Quince organic cotton Oxford shirt to add just a little more class to my wardrobe for that trip. Certainly over the holidays, that Quince Mongolian cashmere sweater was a better look than my usual amateur traveler sweatshirt. Everything is built to hold up season after season. The stitching, the fit, the fabrics, these are the pieces that you'll reach for over and over. Quince works directly with safe, ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're not paying for brand markup, just high-quality clothing. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/traveler for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
How old were you when you realized you were the son of a president?
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before.
FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette.
I didn't think I could love someone like this until you.
From executive producer Ryan Murphy.
It's not a question of if I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It's if I'm cut out to be Mrs. JFK Jr.
FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Watch now on FX, Hulu, and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers.
Another reason why I love Europe and Switzerland in general, there's very few don't do this, don't do that. In my experience, when you visit areas in the United States, you have fences, you have signs, you have ropes, you have guidelines on what to do and what not to do. That kind of doesn't really exist in Europe generally, but in Switzerland in particular, you just go for it. And if you're going to be silly enough and crazy enough to hike up that mountain with no gear, that's on you. So it does open up a lot of things. And I'm on the adventurous side of things. I try to be smart, but I am on the adventurous side of that equation. So I just started going for it and realized about 30 minutes into it that I should probably stop and let my body catch up.
Well, the other thing I would say, you talked about traveling a little more slowly, not trying to do the one night in every place sort of thing.
Exactly.
We did that. We weren't in Gimmelwald. We were in Grindelwald, the other valley in the area, and with plans to go up to the Jungfraujoch. And even though it was June, weather did not permit. And the disadvantage of doing it quickly is you may not be able to do that on this particular day, and having 2 days in the area might give you the option of doing it that you would lose otherwise.
That's exactly right. And there is something to be said, being in one place, not having to pack, unpack, and moving around. There really is a reality to your brain adjusting to a new city, a new place, a new language. It does take, I've read psychologists say different things, but it could take up to 3 days for your brain just to adjust to the new location you're in. Now, then you add on top of that the language and cultural shift. So even if you're moving within Switzerland or within a country of same culture, similar culture, it takes time for your brain to adjust and just get a handle on where it is and absorb the information that you'll remember. And that's what happens a lot. If you've done trips where you move around, you'll realize when you look at photos, oh my, I don't remember that. And that's because your brain could not process that experience just because it was overloaded, just trying to acclimate to the new surroundings. So yes, travel deep is always better. And I get it though. People have a bucket list. They may or may not get back there. So they want to maximize that experience, which I really do understand. But there's a balance there. You can see a lot and you can also base yourself in one place. And that's why I think Bern is a good option for that. So you don't have to go to the Zurich, Geneva, all these different places. You can get a lot of the same experiences, the villages, the lakeside views, the mountains, the countryside, and the history and the culture. You can get all that within an hour or two of Bern.
Excellent.
Yeah, a couple other things I would mention is if you want to do more outside of Bern, you can get to Lucerne, which is a major tourist area, but for good reason. You can get there in 1 hour 20 on the train. So you can use Bern even to do other major destinations like Zurich and Lucerne. And then these little villages like Schwatzi. It's a little village on a lake surrounded by mountains. It's not even a village. It's like a big mom and pop restaurant that has become a village unto itself. I did a motorcycle trip. So if you're feeling really adventurous, rent a motorcycle in Bern, which I've done, and do the alpine passes in some of these villages like Schwatzi, where you can just stop, have lunch, and then have some cheese and then go about your day. But if you're feeling adventurous, to rent a motorcycle in Bern in Switzerland is not a hard thing to do and so much fun.
Now, is Schwatzi closer back again to Bern? Have we gone back to the city at this point?
No, it's a different direction. It's more like south and west. So it's a bit of a different direction. But Schwatzi is one of those places. The places I mentioned, everything I've mentioned up until this point, you can reach with train or public transportation, gondola, tram, whatever. But some of these other villages like Schwatzi, having some mode of transportation like a car is necessary.
Okay.
So depending on your proclivities and your interest and just your risk tolerance, if you will, I think driving in Switzerland, they drive on the right side of the road.
Oh, it's an easy place to drive.
It's a very easy place to drive.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to have it the whole time, maybe just for a couple days.
Sure.
You don't need it in the city of Bern. You get there, you park it. But picking it up at the train station, for example, is easy. And then you do these couple of little day trips. So if you don't want to rent a car, you can see a lot. If you do want to rent a car, there's a lot of even more off the beaten path hikes and villages and stuff that you can get to.
Even when you mentioned going to the Itinerary, that is someplace that I appreciated having a car to just drive around the lake and stop at the different castles and things like that along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it opens up a lot of things and everything's a cost benefit. But having that car, you don't have to stick to a schedule because as good as the train system is, there's certain trains going at certain times and you got to stick to the schedule. And that can be a bummer if you're enjoying the view and having a local beer and I got to make my train.
Excellent. Anything else you would add to your itinerary here as we're in Bern, Switzerland and the region?
No, I think we did a good job of giving an overview of what to see and do in the city of Bern, why it's worth visiting, the major things that you don't want to miss, and then what you can do in and around it. So I think Bern really is that two-sided coin of it's a destination unto itself that I think is really underrated, well worth visiting in Switzerland. But then within 1 to 2 hours of the city, there's an endless amount of things, both city and country, historic and natural beauty that you can see that could keep you busy for well over a week.
Excellent. Anything else we should know before we go to Bern, before we get to some of our wrap-up questions?
Where to stay is important. This might be an obvious one, but just to underscore the point, location. Bern is a city that will look like, okay, I can get to the historic center from this area that's in the periphery because maybe you found a cheaper hotel. But where possible, you want to be able to walk out your door and be in the city center, in the historic center. So, like Hotel Bern.
Which I'm going to pay a little more for.
You're going to pay a little more for. Yeah, half of what you're paying for.
And get a smaller hotel room, probably.
Certainly. Yeah. Generally speaking, the hotel rooms are going to be smaller, but they're not boxes. It's not like Japan where you're literally boxed in. They are reasonable, but they're not American hotels. And the showers might be a little smaller. But a hotel, for example, a hotel that I love to stay in when I am in Bern is called Hotel Bern, Baren, and that is almost directly in front, opposite of the Bundeshaus. So you walk out your door
okay.
and then you're there. Everything is there. And the cool thing is it's also easy to reach. If you have a car, you need to drop off luggage. You can drive right in front of it, park, and there is parking in and around these hotels. So that's another thing that makes this hotel in Bern unique is you can stay in the city center without too much trouble if you have a car. That's not going to be true in a lot of historic centers.
Sure.
Yeah, places like in Italy, you have to have a permit, special permit
gosh,
just
yeah.
to even drive into it, or else you get a fat ticket 6 months later in the mail. But yeah, Hotel Baron's a great one. So considering where you're staying, will you be driving? Will you be using public transportation? And then just considering your must-sees and do's in accordance with how much time you have.
Okay. As we get to our wrap-up questions, you are standing in the prettiest spot in Bern. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
That's a good question. Can I have two?
You can have two.
But
that may be next time you come on, you don't get one.
Okay.
So,
yeah, fine. That's fair. But I don't want to deprive your listeners because it really is two different views, two different sides, if you will. The first one is the Rosengarten. This is my go-to.
Yep.
I absolutely love it. It's quaint. It's beautiful. It's literally like watching a high-def movie because you're up on this hill. So the viewing platform with the benches and everything, the Rose Garden is behind you. And then in front of you is this scene unfolding. It looks like a painting. You have the city with the tower of the cathedral and the river Aare right at your feet, right below you. And then this sprawling medieval city, just boom, there it is. So it's just iconic, quaint, beautiful, peaceful. But then...
And we're looking from the tip of the peninsula down towards the base of the peninsula.
Exactly.
To the west.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You're looking west at that point. You're basically kind of looking west and a little southwest, but you're looking through the historic center, that peninsula. Then to change the scene, you're still in the historic center, but just behind the Bundeshaus. So if you're looking at the Bundeshaus, the Parliament building, you'll look, well, left or right. But if you look to your right, you'll see a little archway. Walk through that archway, and then behind the Bundeshaus is a park. And on a clear day, that's where you'll see the mountains. So from there, you see the Goethen. I can actually see my buddy's house from that view. So every time I'm there, I give him a call and say, Chris, I'm looking right at you. Oh, his name's Chris too, by the way, Christian. And he lives up on this Goethen. So from that view, you get more of the natural landscape. You get more of the layout. And then on a clear day, you can see the Alps. So you can't really see that as much from the Rosengarten just because it's not positioned the correct way. But from the platform area park behind the Bundeshaus, you get this spectacular view. And one thing I'll add about that is you can take stairs down. Like I said, the historic center's leveled up. You can take stairs down to get to the base where that Matsili platform is coming out of the river. Right near that is a Turkish bath. You wouldn't expect a bathhouse. It's literally from the outside, it looks like a hammam. So it is a hammam. Traditionally, it's like a Turkish hammam, looks like it, and then you come in and you can get the full Turkish bath experience right there in Bern.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would not expect that.
I wouldn't either. And it's good. It's a good one to do. So I did this just in November. And so if you have that time and you want to do something unique, you can go down and have yourself a full-on Turkish bath experience, which is good for the skin. Yeah.
And it looked like there was also a funicular that went down to that part of the river that you were talking about there.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can pay a couple franc and then take a funicular from the historic top, the Bundeshaus area, all the way down to the bottom. It's really not a huge area. You're talking maybe 30-second ride, but it's steep. So it's not long, but it's very steep. So if stairs, steep incline is not your jam, another reason why I love Bern is they have accommodation for everybody. Whatever your mobility is, you'll be able to get around.
One thing that makes you laugh and say only in Bern.
Only in Bern. That's a good question. The bears, I would say only in Bern where you see live bears roaming. But I would say the hybrid French and German. So Switzerland actually has 4 languages. It has 4 official languages, French, German, Italian, and Romansh. Romansh is that ancient language, only about 50,000 native speakers in the southeast. Yeah.
Another Romance language,
Yeah, exactly. They think, linguists think that Romansh is the closest that we have today to vulgar ancient Latin.
Yeah, to the language of the common people in ancient Rome. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think 2/3 of Switzerland is German speaking, and it's called Swiss German. So it's actually not High German, but it is German. there's actually no such thing as written Swiss German. So Swiss German is a spoken language or a dialect, but it's more than a dialect. But then you have these cantons like Bern, which are hybrid. So you get French and German speakers, but what's happened over time is you get a blend Bernese language. For example, you go to Zurich, you can say Guten Tag, right? In Bern, or Danke, thank you. So for an exact one-to-one, in Zurich, most parts of Switzerland, Danke, no problem, German. In Bern, you'd say Merci. Mercy. It's actually more like mercy than merci. It's not as French on the merci, but you say mercy as a French word. So this hybrid of languages. And then they have some very typical Swiss words like grüezi. So I'd say what makes me laugh that maybe more Swiss than just Bern, but Bern epitomizes it, is you get this beautiful blend of German and French and urban and country. So you can go to the Blumen's house, talk to a guy in a suit, and he's cultured and has all this great information and he is well-spoken. And then within 1 hour or less, get into a village and you'll have this farmer, grüezi, which is like a hello in their dialect. So just typical farmer. He might even have his little local farmer hat on, and he hasn't seen another person in days. He's out there milking the cows. And so you get this amazing blend within a very short time and area that you can only get there.
Excellent. Now, if it's a mix of the German and the French, you mentioned doing the raclette. Can I also get my tartiflette? Because I think of that as being more the French region, and that's another potato and cheese dish.
Yeah, you can. I got to say, I don't think I've had that in Bern.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think of it more of Geneva.
Yes, exactly. Lake Geneva.
Especially in the wintertime.
Yes.
Great big copper kettles of it cooking in the wintertime when you go to a festival in there. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. And if you had to summarize Bern in just 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Historic, natural, and cultured.
Our guest again has been traveling Jack Baumann from Guidester.com and the Europe Travel 101 podcast. Tell us a little bit more about what Guidester is, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. So Guidester is a travel and tour company specializing in Europe. So we are an American-based company. I'm based here in St. Louis, working with Americans all over the U.S. And I plan trips for groups and individuals all over the world, but particularly Europe. And the other thing I do is I lead group tours. So I do that 3-4 times a year for Guidester itself. So these are small groups, less than 20 people, usually around 15. And I always do different tours. So actually just last year in July, I did Switzerland. So I did 10 days in Switzerland. So my tours are always deep rather than broad. So usually I pick a region or a country and I focus on that. So this year I'm doing Northern Italy, 10 days just in Northern Italy. So last year I did Switzerland and we stayed in Bern for 3 nights and it was absolutely amazing. People loved it. So in a nutshell, that's what Guidester does, is helping Americans travel to Europe, international, but particularly Europe, planning everything from the flights, hotels, local tours, train, transportation. So getting that logistical planning out of the way and helping you figure out where to stay and what to do. But then I think the thing that makes us really unique from your standard travel agency is you're going to get a guidebook that downloads to your phone, customized to you and your trip. You're going to tell me, I want more outdoorsy, I want more historic, and you're going to get a guidebook that we create that'll tell you what to see and do, local restaurants, how to get around, even custom maps. So it just makes both sides of the travel piece, the booking piece before you go, and then what to see and do when you arrive. It is that holistic, comprehensive travel planning service specializing in Europe.
Cool. Well, thanks very much, Jack. And appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your obvious love for Bern, Switzerland.
Yeah, it's a great city. And for your listeners, if Switzerland's on your list, Bern is a great option to see and to base yourself. So thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Really had a good time.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Karina Beamisturfer, host of Morning Cup of Murder, your daily true crime podcast. Yes, you heard me right, daily true crime. Every day, Morning Cup of Murder tells you a straightforward, short-form story about murder, true crime, cold cases, disappearances, serial killers, cults, and more. And I do that all in under 15 minutes. With over 3 years of stories and over 20 million downloads, the Morning Cup of Murder podcast has become a staple of so many people's daily routines. So, why not add it to yours? Stream Morning Cup of Murder everywhere you listen to podcasts, and remember, stay safe.
Thanks to our guest, Jack, and special thanks to the patrons of the show who help support Amateur Traveler financially. If you're interested in getting the show early, getting a monthly Zoom call, and other things that the patrons get, go to patreon.com/amateurtraveler to learn more. I'm still looking for people to join me in Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, and time is running out. If you're interested in going, drop me an email to chris2x@gmail.com or go to amateurtraveler.com/trips. And with that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, that same email, chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening.
I got to see one more cathedral.